When my friend's son died, Timmy, that happened in Minnesota. That happened at a lake in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. And so I wanted to get involved just putting a message out. I intended to just put a message out a couple of times because I wanted to warn people about the fact that water was dangerous, and if their kids fell into it, all Timmy did was fall in. He fell into a wave. He wasn't swimming. He wasn't even dressed for swimming. He fell into a wave standing on the shore of the lake. I started researching the drowning deaths in Arizona. I went to our engineering department that keeps tapes. It's tape storage. And I said, I need some drowning tapes. I'm doing a story. Do we have any? We don't keep them in here. I said, why not? There's too many of them. We keep them in a separate room. So he took me down to this room, shelves of drowning incidents. I was going, what? What's going on here? And so all of a sudden now I'm starting to think, well, how many kids are drowning that they have a shelf full of drowning tapes? So what I did was, unannounced, I walked over because the main station for the fire department was right behind Channel 10. So I just walked over one afternoon and I went to their PIO department, and there was a guy sitting in there. His name was Steve Jensen. And I walked in and he recognized me and he went, well, hi, what are you doing here? And I said, do we have a drowning problem in Phoenix? And Steve stopped and he kind of went back a little bit and he went, I've been waiting for you. And that's what started it. You know, it's sort of like a serial killer. You have this here, you have this here, you have this here, you have this here, and pretty soon somebody goes, what's going on here? And that's kind of what was happening, but it wasn't happening. All of a sudden, I realized that this was going on and nobody knew it. Nobody was paying much attention to it. Steve Jensen knew, but he didn't know what to do about it. It's 1980. I started giving my message on the air almost immediately. Watch your kids around water. And that was a phrase I came up with in my kitchen. I was trying to think, how do I say this? What do I say? And the first phrase I came up with was, watch kids around water. And then I thought, I want it to be more personal than that. I'm gonna watch your kids around water. I want to lay it right on you. Watch your kids around water. And that's really the way I meant it. I meant to get in their face. I was easing into it, you know, but I wanted to be in their face. And I did get in people's face because I got hate mail. I got a lot of hate mail, and it surprised me. It really surprised me. People who would be angry with me because they said they watch their kids. And what are you telling? Why are you telling me? You're insulting me by saying I don't. And I contacted every piece of hate mail that I got and talked them out of it. A lot of them were from family members of children that drowned. So I understood why they were angry. Because they thought I was an ambulance chaser. They thought I was making money off of it. And, but we talked. I told them I didn't make any money. And I turned all of them to my side. All of them understood. But I never let a moment go by where someone criticized me that I didn't go back to them. And I didn't go back to them and fight with them. I went back to them to explain what I was doing. And I kept saying, I have a message. It's a real simple one. Watch your kids around water. If you watch them, they're not going to drown. I had a mother call me one time and she said, I want to talk to you. Can you come to my home? So I went out to her home and we got out of the pool. She took me out to the pool and she said, I took my 3-year-old and I sat around the step right here. And then I was vacuuming the pool and I was watching her. and I was vacuuming the pool, and I was watching her. And then all of a sudden, I got into a little daydream about something, and I'm vacuuming, and here she comes floating on the bottom of the pool. And she said, I damn near vacuumed her up. And she said, I know what you mean now by watch your kids around water. You mean like always. And I said, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty simple. Well, there have been a few. Timmy, of course, was very impactful for me. There was one incident where I took a crew of 5 to a home. It was a near drowning victim, which are the worst. I once had an emergency room nurse tell me, and she wasn't being smart, she was telling me. She said, if I walked in my backyard and I saw a kid floating in my pool, she said I'd walk inside and watch a TV program before I dialed 911. That's how bad near drown victims are. And she was trying to tell me how bad. She wasn't trying to be heartless or cruel. She was trying to tell me how bad it was. So we went to this home of this near drowning victim, and the mother and father were there. And we interviewed the mother. I always interviewed the mother. Fathers never talk. Never interviewed a father in my life. Fathers do not talk about this. There are a few now, and you know that through the coalition. But when I started this, dads they'd been ripped of their masculinity. They had not protected their child, and they didn't want to talk about it. So I talked to the mother. This child had to be ventilated every couple of minutes. And so they had to take a suction cup and they had to suck things out of his throat. He was in one of these chairs that does everything for him. And he was there, but he wasn't really there. And so we did the interview, and we all went home. Went back to the station, did our jobs. There was a producer, there was a photographer, there was a live truck driver, and there was myself. And then there was just an intern that was along, so there were 5 people there. The next day I was as sick as a dog. I didn't have any symptoms of being sick the day before or the night before, but the next morning I woke up. I was so sick that I couldn't. I have the least amount of sick days of anybody at the station in the history of the station. And I called in sick. I got to work the next day after being sick, and I found out that the other 4 members of the crew had called in sick as well. And I thought, wow, what an impact from being in that room with that child. What an impact. And now, think of the parents that live with that every day. See, and it's stuff like that that just really strengthens your resolve to not stop doing this. Those are everyday stories of everyday people. Those people live, they have a house. They drive a car, they go to the grocery store. They live every day just like you and I do. Only when they go home, there's a little kid there on a ventilator. It's horrible. I never thought of myself as a water safety advocate. Never. I never ever applied that phrase to myself. I always thought of myself as Dave Munsey, a guy who had a friend's child die in a water incident, and I wanted to do something about it. When I retired, I looked at my website, I looked at the responses, and I said, I'm a water safety expert. I said, I was looking at I was standing at my desk, and my computer was on, and my computer was rolling through responses. And it was just rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. And I was standing there and I was kind of wiping tears out of my eyes. And all of a sudden I looked over and my boss was standing next to me. And I said, I think I made an impact. He said, you made a frickin' dent. Two days after I retired. First of all, I was overwhelmed when I retired, because when I retired, I had the first knowledge of how successful not only my career, but my water safety program had been. Hundreds of thousands of responses on all these different websites. Our tech people estimated at over 1 million responses. 99% had the words, watch your kids around water. 99%. They didn't get it wrong. They got it right. And I said, they're listening. They get it. They heard me. And that's what when I go to places like the Coalition, I want to say to people, they're listening. They're listening to us. Because look at these responses. They all knew exactly what I was saying. Drownings were down a little bit over the years that we did that. And they got it. They knew that phrase. Nobody got it wrong. Children should be watched around water. Make sure you watch your kids. Watch your kids around water. Everybody got the phrase right. And I was just overwhelmed with it. But 2 days after I retired, my phone rang. And I picked it up, and it was Debbie and Mitch, Timmy's mom and dad. Debbie said, David, Timmy did not die in vain. Timmy did not die in vain. And that's a message that I would pass along to anybody working in water safety. If you have a personal loss, that person, that child, that friend, that whatever, daughter, son, cousin, did not die in vain because of what you're doing. And when she said that to me, that was my reward. I never took anything, 37 years, and that was my reward. And that was a damn good one.